Welcome back, travelers, to another Baldur's Gate 3 class overview video. Today, we're going to be talking and focusing on the shape-shifting extraordinaires, the Druid class. Druids channel the elemental forces of nature and share deep kinship with animals. Mastery of wild shape allows them to transform into beasts all over the realms, just like the bear that got down and dirty with I shouldn't talk about that, actually. Everyone knows about the bear by now. Everyone's going to be doing what the bear done when they play as a druid. That's the... Oh, goodness gracious me. Druids are closely attuned with nature and the animals that live in it. They utilize the power of nature to cast spells and have the ability to transform into various creatures. Druids use wisdom as their primary ability score. So like I say, the spellcasting ability is wisdom, and for your prepared spells, you may swap your prepared spells at any time while out of combat, but can only have a certain number of spells prepared at one time. These spells also must be of a level for which you have the spell slots. Your saving throw proficiency is wisdom and intelligence, and the equipment that you are proficient with is clubs, daggers, javelins, maces, quarterstaves, scimitars, sickles, spears, light armor, medium armor, and also the ability to wield shields. I think I said also there, I meant also. Druids revere nature above all, gaining their spells and other magical powers either from the force of nature itself or from a nature deity. Many druids pursue a mystic spirituality of transcendent union with nature rather than devotion to a divine entity, such as a god or a higher being like many other classes do, while others serve gods of wild nature, animals, or elemental forces. The ancient druidic traditions are sometimes called the Old Faith, in contrast to the worship of gods in temples and shrines. Druid spells are oriented towards nature and animals, the power of tooth and claw, of sun and moon, of fire and storm. Druids also gain the ability to take on animal forms, and some druids make a particular study of this practice, even to the point where they prefer animal form to their natural form. Imagine just running across Baldur's Gate as a little mouse, or, you know, whatever you want to be. Druids are awesome. When making a druid, consider why your character has such a close bond with nature. Perhaps your character lives in a society where the old faith still thrives, or was raised by a druid after being abandoned in the depth of a forest. Perhaps your character had a dramatic encounter with the spirits of nature, coming face to face with a giant eagle or dire wolf and surviving the experience to tell the tale. Maybe your character was born during an epic storm or volcanic eruption, which was interpreted as a sign of becoming a druid, was part of your character's destiny. Have you always been an adventurer as part of your druidic calling, or did you first spend time as a caretaker of a sacred grove or spring? Perhaps your homeland was befouled by evil and you took up an adventuring life in hopes of finding a new home. These are all things you can think about when creating your character in Baldur's Gate 3, because even though Baldur's Gate 3 has its own story already, it's also nice to have that role-playing aspect as you're running through the world. How would your character react? How would your character talk and behave to these other NPCs around the world? Adding that role-playing ability into Baldur's Gate 3 makes it such a more lively experience across the journey. As a druid, you traditionally know Druidic, the secret language of druids. You can speak the language and use it to leave hidden messages. You and others who know this language automatically will spot such a message. Others spot the message's presence with a successful DC 15 wisdom or perception check, but can't decipher it without the use of magic. Drawing on the divine essence of nature itself, you can cast spells to the shape that essence to your will. At first level, you know 2 cantrips of your choice from the following cantrips: Guidance, Poison Spray, Produce Flame, Resistance, and Shililach. I never know how you say that one. You also have a choice of first level spells such as Animal Friendship, Long Strider, Speak with Animals, Thunder Wave, Fog Cloud, Healing Word, Cure Wounds, and more. A druid holds certain plants to be sacred, particularly alder, ash, birch, elder, hazel, holly, juniper, mistletoe, oak, rowan, willow, and yew. Druids often use such plants as part of a spell casting focus, incorporating lengths of oak or yew or sprigs of mistletoe. Similarly, a druid uses such woods to make other objects such as weapons and shields. Yew is associated with death and rebirth, so weapon handles for scimitars or sickles might be fashioned from it. Ash is associated with life, and oak with strength. Starting at second level, you can use your action to magically assume the shape of the beast you have seen before. This is called wild shape. This is one of the main reasons to be a druid. You can use this feature twice. While in animal shape, you can't talk or cast spells. Bear that in mind when you're looking to take on a new beast. You can take on the attributes your beast form, excluding your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. When your beast form drops to 0 hit points, you will revert back to your normal form. Some of the shapes that you can take on in Baldur's Gate 3 involve a badger, a bear, a cat, a spider, a wolf, a dire raven. There was an April Fool's joke that Larian also put out where you could do a cheese wheel. You could roll across the plains as a cheese wheel, but that was in fact just an April Fool's joke, although it would have been hilarious. So depending on which shape you take on, for example, if you take on the shape of a polar bear that tanks damage by taunting enemies, you gain goading roar and claws. Bear shapes has the following physical attributes: 19 strength, dexterity is 10, and constitution is 16. Whereas if you take on a cat, for example, your strength goes down to a 6, whereas your dexterity goes up to a 15. So it all determines what you want to focus on more, whether it's HP, defense and strength, or mobility, constitution, dexterity. It all depends what you need your shape for. At second level, you also choose your subclass. So you choose to identify with a circle of druids, the circle of land, or the circle of moon. There's also one being added into the full release, I think, called the circle of spores, which I have no knowledge on that whatsoever. In the handbook, there's nothing about it. On the wiki, there's nothing about it. I've never seen the circle of spores before, so that's going to be an interesting one to dive into as well. So for the circle of land, druids of this circle connect to the powerful magic that flows through the earth and binds all living things together. These druids are more specialized in spell casting to attack enemies or support allies in combat. They also have the ability to recover a certain amount of spell slots once per day. The Circle of Land is made up of mystics and sages who safeguard ancient knowledge and rites through a vast oral tradition. These druids meet with sacred circles of trees or standing stones to whisper primal secrets in Druidic. The circle's wisest members preside as the chief priests of communities that hold on to the old faith and serve as advisors to the rulers of those folk. Remember, of this circle, your magic is influenced by the land where you were initiated into the circle's mysterious rites. When you choose this circle at second level, you learn one additional druid cantrip of your choice. You also unlock natural recovery, where you can regain some of your magical energy by sitting in meditation and communing with nature. During a short rest, you choose expended spell slots to recover. The spell slots can have a combined level that is equal or less than half of your druid level. You cannot use this feature again until you finish a long rest. So for example, when you're 4th level druid, you can recover up to 2 levels worth of spell slots. You can recover either a 2nd level slot or 2 1st level slots. For the Circle of Moon, druids sworn to the moon draw on its mercurial nature to transform into massive creatures and primal elementals. These druids are more specialized in wild shaping into various creatures to attack enemies or support allies in combat. They also have the ability to gain hit points while wild shaped. Druids of the Circle of Moon are fierce guardians of the wilds. Their order gathers under the full moon to share news and trade warnings. They haunt the deepest parts of the wilderness, where they might go for weeks on end before crossing paths with another humanoid creature, let alone another druid. Changeable as the moon, a druid of this circle might prowl as a great cat one night, soar over the treetops as an eagle the next day, and crash through the undergrowth in bear form to drive off a trespassing monster. The wild is in the druid's blood. When you choose the circle at 2nd level, you gain the ability to use wild shape on your turn as a bonus action rather than as an action. So again, the Circle of the Moon is all about wild shaping. So instead of using it as an action, this is now a bonus action. So you can move, you can attack, you can cast spells, and then as a bonus action, you can transform into one of your beast shapes. Additionally, while you're transformed by wild shape, you can use a bonus action to expend 1 spell slot to regain 1d8 hit points per level of the spell slot expended. The rights of your circle grant you the ability to transform into more dangerous animal forms. So starting at 2nd level, you can use your wild shape to transform into a beast with a challenge rating as high as 1. So with the moon, you get more shapes that you can actually transform into, as opposed to your previous options that you had. Again, I think the wild shape is a fun subclass to be. The moon, sorry, is a fun subclass to be, because the wild shaping is the main thing of the druid, and if you get more dangerous shapes that you can transform into, it's a bonus action instead. I think the moon is the place to go. Again, we don't know too much about the spores just yet. If you do, leave in the comments down below about the circle of the spores, and you can teach me as well. Druids and the gods. Some druids venerate the forces of nature themselves, but most druids are devoted to one of the many nature deities worshipped in the multiverse. The worship of these deities is often considered a more ancient tradition than the faiths of clerics and unurbanized people. In fact, in the world of the Greyhawk, the Druidic faith is called the Old Faith, and it claims many adherents among farmers, foresters, fishers, and others who live closely by nature. This tradition includes the worship of nature as a primal force beyond personification, but also encompasses the worship of Biori, the Orth Mother, as well as the devotes of Obad Hai, Elona, and Eula. I'm probably butchering these names, but there you go. In the worlds of Greyhawk and the Forgotten Realms, Druidic circles are not usually connected to the faith of a single nature deity. Any given circle in the Forgotten Realms, for example, might include Druids who revere Sylvanus, Mekili, Eldath, Chanto, or even the harsh gods of fury, such as Talos Mala and others. These nature gods are often called the First Circle, the first among the Druids, and most Druids count them all, even the Violet ones, as worthy of veneration. 10th level, you can expend 2 uses of wild shape at the same time to transform into an air elemental, an earth elemental, a fire elemental, or a water elemental. I mean, there's so much options. There's so many options with the wild shape of all the different shapes and sizes that you can transform into. It's based on D&D 5th edition, so I'm intrigued to see if Larian changed the Druid in any ways in the full release of Baldur's Gate 3 to more adapt them to D&D 5th edition. I'm also really intrigued about the Circle of the Spores. I want to see what they get up to. I've never had a full Druid playthrough before, and I'm intrigued to see them at full release. Well, there we go, travelers. It is time to end our journey once again. That's all we have today for the Druid class in Baldur's Gate 3. I hope you learned something here today, and please do remember to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you haven't already. Our full playthrough will start right here on August 3rd, and I hope to see you along with us on our journey. We do have a Discord if you wish to share your own journeys and maybe team up with other travelers around the community. Ladies and gentlemen, travelers of all ages, I've been Harutuvi, also known as Rena's Kid. Much of as always, keep your bear form going, and peace.